All right, welcome everyone. It is 1 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome so much, and thanks for joining us for the summer series for campus leaders. Our session is being recorded, and we will make the video available to you later today. So feel free to share it with others, and be sure to follow us and post on our social media platforms about your learning. Today, we will be focusing on campus systems. Remember that today we have principals, districts, support staff, assistant principals, instructional coaches, teacher leaders. If you're here with us, you're part of a guiding coalition. Today's learning will help you work together to make decisions and plan for next year. The learning will be guided today by myself, Terry Clement, and Amy Havard. We are part of the team at A3 Alliance, a nonprofit based in Austin, Texas. Amy and I are fortunate enough to support and partner with schools all over Texas. We're excited to spend this time with you today, learning about systems to support your work. The agenda for our time begins with the why, and then we'll learn about what a system is and go through a detailed process to review your current systems. After we learn together, we'll provide time for those of you who are attending the webinar as a team to reflect on the learning and make an action plan. To get the most out of today, remember to change your name so that it's easier to put you into groups for the team time. Also, keep your audio muted, take notes, and we've also added links to the PDF of the slides in the chat. I think they've been added a few times, so you should be able to see them. If not, I'm sure they'll come up again. So why are systems so important? There's a lot of work to do. We know this. It's all important. Systems allow you to get the work done in the most efficient manner possible. This lets you prioritize your work so your energy is focused in the right area. In the aftermath of school closures and facing the new challenges of the 2021 school year, all of these demands, we're going to have to work harder than ever to be efficient and effective with the work that we do. We also know that the work of systems is a foundational part of strong school leadership and planning. So this aligns specifically with lever 1 of the TEA Effective Schools framework, but notice how the graphics shows lever 1 encompassing all the other levers. This is true of the systems thinking we'll address today. So systems are the most effective strategy to reach for when leading all the work of an effective school. More importantly, without systems, school leaders engage in their important work each day in a reactionary manner. Something happens, you react. Another thing happens, you react. And before you know it, you're off course, busier than ever, but not focused on the right work. And the right work is not getting done, so you're likely not going to get the outcomes that you want. Also, members of a school community without systems are very often lost, confused, or drained by all of the reactions in a day. So strong leaders use systems thinking to provide benefits for their campus. What are these benefits? What do systems do for your school? Alignment and connection. We need to see the connection between all of our work and how it aligns with everything else at the school. Remember, educators do not resist hard work. They resist work that is not meaningful. The sure way to make it meaningful is to align it with the mission and vision of your school and connect it to the shared commitments. Holding each other accountable is only doable with a system. Systems keep us protected from unnecessary emotion or judgment. The way to do that is using systems to foster shared language. And shared language is the gateway to increased clarity, which along with all the other aspects of systems will help you build a positive culture for your campus. If people engage in your school community each day, knowing who is doing what and why and how things work, this lowers anxiety and stress, leaving us more energy to get the right work done. Here's a straightforward definition of what a system is. I'll let you read that for just a second. I'll just add that a system allows you to see how everything is connected, how it all fits together, and it lets you plan for how things will interact. thus less need for leaders to react. How do you know if you have a system? You got to have these things. Is it detailed? Is the system so detailed that the who, the when, the what, everything is detailed, leaving nothing to chance, nothing unknown? Is it documented? Systems don't exist if they're only in someone's head. They must exist in writing, visually, somewhere concrete and accessible for everyone who needs or participates in them, sorry. Communicated, frequently referenced, clearly communicated by more than just one person. A shared voice among all leaders in a school is critical. And supported. Is your system supported? Is there explicit professional learning provided for everything involved in the system? Just handing someone a packet or pointing to a virtual document on a website is not enough. This systems checklist and systems thinking can also be engaged as a diagnostic tool. So Amy's going to show you how reviewing your systems, especially in preparation for this remarkable time as educators and preparing for fall 2020, this can be an effective way to optimize outcomes and ensure a supportive environment for your staff and students. Amy?
Thanks, Terry. As campus leaders, it's important to take the time to review and revise your systems in the spirit of continuous improvement. Normally, summer's a great time to do this in order to ensure you have effective systems in place for the upcoming year. This summer, it's even more important to make sure we revisit our systems through the lens of our new, ever-changing reality. When reviewing and revising systems, you and your team should be asking these questions. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share a 5-step process that you can use to follow to do the work of reviewing any system you choose. This is a process you can follow now or later, anytime throughout the year when you want to look for areas of improvement to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of your systems. Before you start, give some thought to who needs to be part of the work of reviewing your systems. This might be different people depending on the system, but ultimately, administrators and your leadership team should have final review. This is so that you can ensure consistency across the campus and avoid confusion or conflict with other systems in play. The team reviewing your system should have diverse representation from across your campus. That's so that all perspectives can be taken into account, even student and parent perspectives, if possible. The process for reviewing systems have 5 steps. First, map your current system. Then evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of that system. Step 3 is to make any needed updates and adjustments. Then detail and document your system. And lastly, plan for communicating and supporting your system, just like the checklist that Terry shared. Each of these steps are important for ensuring your team has a thoughtful and productive discussion around the system you're reviewing. So let's take a look at each step. Before making any changes to a system, it's really important to understand exactly how it worked in the past. I personally like to use sticky notes or draw a flow chart, either in real life or with a web-based tool, now that we're all collaborating over a distance. I use this method to map out each component. Sometimes you're not even aware of all of the things that happen in one system until you discuss it in detail as a team and lay it out visually. The point of step 1 is to get a clear and accurate picture of what your system looked like in the past. This will help you pinpoint areas for improvement, places that need more clarity, and to anticipate how staff, students, families, pretty much anyone may react to any changes you make moving forward. So here's an example of how one school mapped out their RTI process. You can see that they mapped it out with a sticky note component by component to get a clear idea of what happened throughout the entire levels of intervention. Now, step 2 is for thinking critically about each component of the system you just mapped out and the system as a whole to see what worked and what didn't. This is where the perspectives of those different team members can be really valuable. in helping to uncover how the system functioned in different parts of your building and for different groups of people. So you want to make sure you're taking into account all of those different perspectives as you review your strengths and weaknesses. So going back to the example of the team who mapped out their RTI system, you can see here the chart they created that showed the strengths and weaknesses they identified within their system. The next step is to review those strengths and weaknesses you identified and make any needed updates to your system. During this time, you can also consider the new challenges you're anticipating for the year if those didn't come up already in your strengths and weaknesses. How will this system function if the instruction is in person, virtual, or a combination of both? How will our new routines around safety and attendance affect our system? So really taking the time as a team to discuss those strengths and weaknesses, as well as looking forward to challenges for the new year, will help you decide what needs to be added or updated in your system. So again, looking at this example of the same team who mapped out their RTI process, they decided they needed to be more explicit about addressing virtual instruction and where it fits into their RTI process for the upcoming year. So you can see they added the pink boxes around their components to make notes of where those updates would be needed. Now, the last step is step 4, is for after you have made those updates or adjustments to your system. Now your team needs to add details to each component to make it clear exactly how that component works. The more clear and detailed you can be, the easier it is for people to follow. Remember, clarity precedes competence. The clearer you are about what people need to do, the better able they are to do it. Also in this step is for you to plan how the system will be documented so that it's accessible to all staff in multiple ways. How can any staff member easily find it and refer to it when needed? Maybe they're working from their desk in their classroom, maybe they're in a meeting in another room or the conference room, or maybe they're at home during distance learning. They still have to be able to access your system to be able to refer to their parts and responsibilities. Your system has to be documented so that it doesn't just live in your head, as Terry said earlier. It's too important to just exist in someone's mind. Everyone should be able to point to the document that explains your system so that they can understand and follow it. So again, looking at our RTI example, you can see that this team added details in each component to show who was responsible and when it should happen. They decided to document their system in a Google Doc and save it to a shared staff folder in their staff Google Drive so that everyone had access to it when they needed it. In addition, they decided to teach it to everyone at back to school PD and make sure that it was referred to and refreshed in subsequent faculty meetings. So now the last step, step 5 in reviewing your system, is to plan for how it will be shared with your staff and how you will support it throughout the year with learning and monitoring. So that last step, you saw the team got a little bit into that with talking about PD and faculty meetings. Now, thinking about how this will happen initially at the beginning of the year, but also how do you communicate and support the system ongoing throughout the year. This will make sure your system stays effective and doesn't die off as the year goes on and people forget about that back to school PD. So when thinking about really supporting your system throughout the year, we really need to take a moment to talk about time management for leaders. It's really easy to get distracted by the people and the events coming at you all day. This can make you lose your time and the focus you have for the important work you had planned to do. You can do a few things to ensure you have the time to support the systems on your campus. You can start by ensuring that everyone uses the system and refer people back to the system when possible. Don't let the system break down and take up your time when people don't follow the process. Next, ensure you're building your daily or weekly schedule with the intention to spend time on what matters. When you review your calendar for the week, you should be able to see the actions and the time you're spending to support the different components of your systems. In addition, focusing on the right work will help you make choices about where your time needs to be spent. We know that everything on a school campus is important for someone, but you as a leader do not always have to be the go-to person for everything. And lastly, it's really important to coordinate with the other leaders on your campus to protect each other's time. This means that you align your schedules to cover for each other and give each other time to do the right work, while someone else is on call for those immediate issues that pop up during the day. If you let your systems die through lack of support, they're not there to help anyone. Now, Terry's going to show you an example of a detailed, documented, communicated, and supported system.
Thanks, Amy. Let's look at an example of a system that has been through this process that Amy just took us through. But as we look at it, keep an eye out for that systems checklist I told you about. Also look for whether or not the system has been updated for challenges that we're anticipating for this coming school year. First, you can see that the RTI system for this campus has been documented in great detail using a handbook. All staff members receive the handbook. This year it will be a link on the online shared version of the handbook. The important thing is that the handbook is accessible to all staff and serves as the documentation of the system. Is it detailed? The contents include who is on the campus RTI team, a schedule of their meetings, and a detailed chart of what support is provided at each tier for both academic interventions and behavior. Also, there's a flow chart that shows very detailed and specific steps to be taken to engage in supporting students and engaging with the system. There's also resources in the handbook provided to help staff support students through getting those resources when they need them, either from the district or from outside. So we can see that this system is very detailed and very well documented. Nobody has to memorize it. They just have to learn the handbook, use the handbook, and be able to access it because it's so well detailed and documented. Next, how will this campus RTI system be communicated? Leaders and staff members will follow the handbook and the details of the flow chart that it has in there. Also, campus leaders will model accountability by deferring to the handbook to answer questions and actively using to lead and guide. Kind of like Amy mentioned before, you got to use the system. So very well communicated, but also there should be explicit professional learning. So this year, this campus will be doing virtual PD, a video with a Google form reflection to hold everyone accountable for asynchronous learning. Also, consistent communication between the RTI team and the other teams on the campus will also support the system. And then finally, the guiding coalition for this system, this campus, they determined that there were some changes needed also to the handbook and to the system. So they planned that they'll have specific supports for students in different modalities. So virtual students would have options for tier 2 and 3 interventions as well. Even changing modalities would be a possibility. So this is a really fine-tuned system. They use the process, they use the checklists, and all bases are covered, and students are likely to be very well served by this process. So as you take this learning and think about your own campus, ask yourself, do we have a system for blank? And remember, it's not a system unless you can point to a detailed document and explain how it is communicated and supported. So systems are necessary for anything that's important enough that it must work, and it must work well. So it's so important that you won't leave it up to chance or on the shoulders of one person or a team without the shared strength and accountability of a cohesive professional community, a team, a guiding coalition, and a whole campus team that can bring that system to life and keep it alive. I'm going to let Amy close us out today with a connection to continued learning. Amy?
Thanks. As we have said, systems are essential to a high-functioning campus. You can learn more about the systems that are critical to your school, especially in this time of uncertainty and new challenges, in our Road to Recovery Priority Playbook. You can find the playbook and planning tool on our website, and you can also register for the next Road to Recovery webinar using the link in the chat. In addition to the Road to Recovery webinar, we also hope that you continue joining us each Thursday for new topics in our summer series. Remember that you can share this registration link with others from your campus and district if you would like for them to attend with you as well. So thank you so much for joining us today to learn about how to make your systems work. We'll share today's recording with you soon, so please feel free to share it out with others from your campus and district. Now stay with us as we move into team collaboration time. So we know there are quite a few of you who are with us today without a team. So we are going to work on